Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Good Food Hood Dude. I'm Chef D, and I'm gonna bring you some dope ass dishes. So I'm gonna be making a pan-seared salmon with a maple habanero glaze, butternut squash risotto, and roasted Brussels sprouts. So let's do it. So check it out, let me show you guys what I got today. We're gonna have some nice extra virgin olive oil. I got some Chardonnay here, butternut squash. We have some minced garlic, minced onions. This is our Arborio Rice. We have some almond milk, some Parmesan Cheese, veg stock. And guys, for this recipe, we will use a little bit of butter, just a small amount. Wild Alaskan salmon. So we have some nice green parsley here. We're gonna use that for our butternut squash risotto, just as a garnish. These ingredients over here are for our maple habanero glaze. We have some maple syrup. We have some minced habanero peppers, some lemon zest, and some lemon juice. So you can see we have this nice stem of Brussels sprouts here. We're just gonna pull these off and put them right into the colander so we can give them a wash before we begin to cut them. So after we rinse them, let's go ahead and shake off that excess water and bring them over here to the cutting board to be cut. So with Brussels sprouts, we just want to take about 1 inch off the end, and then we can cut them in half. That's basically going to give you a perfect Brussels sprout cut. All right, so let's go ahead and season our Brussels sprouts. Again, we're going to hit it with some extra virgin olive oil, and then some salt and pepper, a teaspoon of minced garlic. So just give those a toss. Just make sure the olive oil, salt and pepper, garlic kind of get evenly distributed and evenly coated. And then we'll go ahead and lay them out on our roasting pan. Just make sure you spread them out across. Because these are only going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to cook in the oven and get caramelized nice and crispy, we're going to set these to the side while we start our butternut squash risotto. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the butternut squash risotto. I'm adding olive oil, about maybe a tablespoon and a half. And remember guys, I said earlier, I'm gonna use some butter, just a little bit. You don't need much. This is gonna add a little bit more flavor to the butternut squash risotto. So I'm gonna add that in with my olive oil. All right, so we're gonna start out by adding our onions, a teaspoon of minced garlic. Let that start cooking, sweat them out. Sweating is basically cooking them until they become like translucent. So as my aromatics are cooking, I'm gonna demonstrate how to get these nice small cubes of butternut squash. Peel the butternut squash, cut this right down the middle. And then as you can see, you have the pulp and the seeds. So you wanna take a spoon and just kinda gently go inside of that, and then it comes right out. So basically think about straight lines, and that will ultimately give you straight cuts. I'm just coming down. I'm gonna line these up, and then that'll give me my squares. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in my butternut squash. I'd say about 3 tablespoons of butternut squash. This is a cup of Arborio Rice. Let's go ahead and add in the whole cup. And you just want to kind of lightly toast the rice together with your veggies. You know, we're gonna hit it with some white wine just to add our initial liquid. And this is some Chardonnay. And then what we're gonna do is let that kind of cook down and reduce a little bit. And then we can start adding in our veg stock. I'm just gonna chop up some parsley. That'll be added to our butternut squash risotto. So I like to take my hands and just kind of roll the leaves up a little bit. And then with a very sharp knife, you're gonna just kind of gently run your blade through. And this is gonna give you a very fine chiffonade of your parsley. It's just for more like garnish. Our risotto is really cooking. It's starting to get tender. And it looks like we're ready for some more liquid. So I'm gonna add in a little bit more veg stock. From the time it gets tender, until the time it overcooks is a fine window. So you want to make sure once you get to your level of desired tenderness, you go ahead and add your final ingredients in, turn off the heat, and then you're good to go. Every once in a while, you want to take a spoon and just kind of taste your risotto just to check the tenderness. So this is going nicely. At this time, I'm gonna go ahead and pop in my Brussels sprouts in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 375. Again, these are nice and seasoned. So let's go ahead and get these in the oven. In the oven, these Brussels sprouts will cook in the oven about 10 to 12 minutes. We'll check them for tenderness as well. I told you we're gonna do a pan-seared salmon, and we'll do a maple habanero glaze. So that maple glaze for the salmon really complements the butternut squash. So it'll all kind of blend in together. It's gonna be great. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and season our salmon. Let's season this side first. We only need to season this side with salt and pepper. And then once we get it into the pan, we can go ahead and season the other side. So just a nice even layer of salt and pepper. We have our pan, saute pan getting nice and hot because we're ready to sear our salmon. The key with a nice sear to your salmon is to make sure your pan is very hot. Not too hot, not overly hot, but nice and hot so that the salmon doesn't stick to the pan. In the meantime, let's go ahead and add in my Parmesan cheese and my almond milk. So I'm gonna add in maybe about, let's just say 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese and about a tablespoon of almond milk. And that should do it. Let's give that a stir. And what we're gonna do is make sure all that cheese melts. And then once it does, we can go ahead and turn off the heat and set it to the side. So my pan, you see my oil is nice and hot. I'm ready to add in my salmon. Again, you don't want your oil to start smoking. That's when you know the oil is too hot. So let's get in our salmon now. Okay, I'm just gonna grab it and then lay it face side down. And then you can see it's not sticking to the pan at all. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more of that salt and pepper. My risotto is nice and creamy. At this time, we can go ahead and add in our parsley just for garnish. This particular piece of salmon is pretty thin, so we may not have to put it in the oven. We just want to get it seared nicely on the one side and then flip it and cook it probably an additional 3 to 5 minutes on that side. And then once we flip it, we can actually turn the heat down so it doesn't get too dark on the bottom side and dry out. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and check on our Brussels sprouts. Oh, check these out, guys. So we got a nice caramelization on our Brussels sprouts. That's perfect. They're good. They're seasoned perfectly. They still have a bit of a bite. I'm gonna set those here for now. All right, so I think we're ready to go. Our salmon, again, a nice thin piece of salmon, wild Alaskan salmon. We're gonna pull it out of the pan gently and place it on our cutting board just to rest while we're making our maple habanero glaze. So to start this glaze, we have the remnants from the salmon. I have about like a teaspoon of butter here, just a little pad of butter. I'm gonna add that in. Again, we don't need a lot of butter, guys. We're just, spiking up the flavor a little bit. And then I'm gonna toss that around and add in my habanero. I say about a teaspoon of habanero, maybe less, right? Half a teaspoon. And I'm gonna add in just a touch of lemon zest. And then go ahead and hit it with my maple syrup. About a teaspoon of maple syrup and about a half a teaspoon of lemon juice. And you just kind of want to let that thicken up slightly. It doesn't take much. It's already starting to evaporate. So we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and plate.
I gotta stay.
So we got our Habanero Glaze. We're just gonna take a nice dollop of that and just kind of lay it on a plate and do like a nice kind of raindrop design. And then our butternut squash risotto just in the center. You just want to kind of gently add a nice bit of your butternut squash risotto. That's sexy. So that's a good portion right there. Some Brussels sprouts, just kind of right around the edges. Nice crispy roasted garlic Brussels sprouts. Right, the star of the dish is our salmon. So let's go ahead and put that right there on top. And then we're gonna finish it with a little bit more of that maple habanero glaze right on top of the salmon. And there you have it, another dope ass dish. So that was a dope ass dish, perfect dish for the holidays coming up. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment below, and check us out next time.
I gotta stay.